The cowboy rode into town with a limp in his soul. Dust clung to his coat like forgotten sins, and the hot afternoon sun turned, his shadow long and mean, across the cracked main street of Dustwater Gulch. Horses neighed in the distance. A saloon. Piano tinkled a broken tune behind shuttered windows. A dry wind kicked tumbleweed across his path, but he didn't flinch. He hadn't flinched in years. He tied his horse, an aging roan with one eye, to a crooked post and turned toward the general store. That's when he heard it, a small voice, rough like gravel, but no louder than a whisper. "Please, just 1 coin," it said. "I can polish 'em real nice." He stopped, turned slowly. She stood no taller than his belt. A little thing, wrapped in a coat 3 sizes too big, sleeves dragging in the dirt. Her face was streaked with dried mud, her hair like tangled wire. But it was her eyes, brown, wide, starved, that made him pause. No child should look like that, not even in a place like this. He stared at her boots hole-ridden, held together with string. Her hands shook, not from fear, but from hunger. "Ain't looking for charity," she said. "Just 1 coin." The cowboy's jaw clenched. He glanced at the saloon, the store, anywhere but at her. "I don't got time for street rats," he muttered and stepped past. But then she followed. "I'm good at it. Mama taught me." Before she left, he turned sharply. "Don't follow me." "Please," she said again. "It's for my brother." He stopped mid-step. "You got a brother?" She nodded, wiping her nose with a frayed sleeve. "He's younger, sick, real bad cough. They said I could have him back if I get 1 silver coin." The cowboy blinked slowly. "Who said?" The girl looked around, suddenly afraid. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "The man with the scar." The cowboy's face turned to stone. "He?" Knelt, lifting her chin roughly to meet her gaze. Her face flinched, but she didn't cry. "What kind of man makes a deal like that?" Her lips trembled. "He said I had 3 days. This is day 3. He stood again. "And you think 1 coin's enough to buy back a person?" She hesitated. "Mama always said people are worth more than money." "But they took him for less." The cowboy sighed. He pulled a coin from his pocket, a dull silver dollar, flipped it in the air, let it catch sunlight before snatching it back. Her eyes tracked it like a starving pup. "You polish boots?" She nodded quickly. "Real good." He placed his foot on the edge of the porch and sat on the bench outside the store. "Then let's see it." The girl knelt, pulling a scrap of cloth from her coat. She worked with focus and desperation, scrubbing the dust off his worn leather boots. Her fingers were red and raw. Every so often she'd glance up, as if afraid someone would come take her away. He watched her in silence. Something tugged at him from deep inside, something buried under years of whiskey, gunfire, and regret. He remembered a daughter once. She'd been small, too. Hair like wild sunflowers. Always trying to shine shoes with her mama's rag. He blinked the memory away. "What's your name?" He asked. "Rosie," she said, not looking up. "That your real name?" She shrugged. "It's what Mama called me." "Before." He didn't ask what before meant. He already knew. Rosie paused, looking up. "What's yours?" He said nothing, just stared down at her, then at the coin in his hand. Names were things you stopped giving once you lost everything worth. Protecting. She sat back, inspecting her work with pride. The boots gleamed well. They didn't shine like new, but they looked like someone cared. She held out her hand, palm up. A gesture that was half hope, half dash habit dot. He placed the coin in her hand. She clutched it like it was fire, then turned and ran fast, too fast toward the old stables at the edge of town. The cowboy watched her disappear into the heat haze. Something didn't sit right. His gut twisted. He stood slowly. turned to head into the general store, then stopped. A man was leaning against the post, just across the street, watching. He was tall, mean-eyed, face half covered by a thick black beard. A long scar curved across his left cheek like a crooked smile. He held a toothpick between his teeth and wore a black duster coated in trail dust and filth. Their eyes met. The man tipped his hat slightly, then walked away. The cowboy didn't move for a long time. That night, Dustwater Gulch was quiet. Too quiet. The cowboy sat alone in his rented room above the saloon, gun on the table, staring at the flame of a half-melted candle. He could still see the girl's face, still hear her voice. 1 coin. Just 1 coin. He downed a shot of whiskey, slammed the glass down, and reached for his boots. They were clean. Cleaner than they'd been in years. Then he noticed something. Tucked inside, just under the left heel, a piece of torn paper. He pulled it out, unfolded it. 1 word, written in a child's scratchy hand. Help. Morning cracked open like a dry bone over Dustwater Gulch. The cowboy was already in the saddle, the note still tucked in his pocket, the ache in his chest deeper than the whiskey earned from the night before. He rode toward the old stables. Place Rosie had run to his eyes sharp, his fingers resting loose on the butt of his revolver. The town was waking slow, the way Western towns do when they're used to secrets. Doors creaked open. Dogs barked. A kid ran with a milk pail. Somewhere a harmonica played, but the stables were silent. He stepped off his horse and pushed the door open. Inside, the smell hit him, first hay, sweat, and something fouler. His boots crunched over broken glass and wet straw. A stall door creaked. In the far corner, half covered by a tarp, he saw movement. He peeled the tarp back. No Rosie, just a blanket, a scrap of cloth, and blood, fresh, smeared like a handprint. His breath caught. Then behind him a soft shuffle. He turned with his gun raised. Rosie stood there, trembling, a bruise forming under her left eye. Her coat was gone, replaced with a man's shirt. That hung past her knees. Her arms hugged herself. "Where's your brother?" he asked, voice low. Hard. She shook her head. "They took him. Last night." He stepped forward. "Who?" "Scarman. Him and the others. They said the coin was too late." "Too late?" "They said he's worth more now. Stronger. Gonna take him west. Sell him off." The cowboy's stomach turned. "You gave them the coin?" She nodded. They laughed. Silence filled the space like smoke. He crouched. "You leave that note in my boot?" I didn't know who else to ask. He looked at her face. Small, bruised, brave. "All right," he said, standing. "We're going after them." Rosie's eyes widened. "Really?" "I don't leave things half done." "But you don't even know me." He buckled his gun belt. "Don't have to. I knew a little girl once with that same look in her eyes." "Your daughter?" She whispered. He didn't answer. Just walked out. They rode out by noon, 2 shadows against a desert sky. Rosie rode. In front of him on the horse, hands clinging to the saddle horn. He could feel how light she was. Like she hadn't eaten properly in days. Like she might vanish if the wind blew too hard. "Where do we go?" she asked. He pointed west. "If they're selling kids, they'll head to the outlaw camps. Closest is Dead Mule Crossing." Rosie made a face. "That's not a real name. It is if you've ever seen the place." They stopped briefly by a creek. He let her drink first. She cupped the water in her hands like it was gold. "Why are you helping me?" she asked again. The cowboy shrugged. "Maybe I need saving too." That evening, as the sky turned purple and the stars started blinking open, they made camp under a wind-bent tree. He lit a small fire, and they shared a tin of beans, Rosie eating fast, hungrily. "You always alone?" she asked between bites. most of the time. Why? He stared into the fire. The flames licked old ghosts awake. Had a family once. Wife, daughter, ranch too, until I messed up. What happened? He looked at her. I let the wrong men into my house. She didn't ask more. She didn't need to. Instead, she pulled something from her pocket, a tiny cloth flower, faded, frayed. She placed it on the ground between them like it was sacred. Brother gave it to me, said to keep it close, so I don't forget who I am. The cowboy stared at it. Then, carefully, he reached into his satchel and pulled out a folded photograph. A woman and a little girl both smiling in front of a wooden house. Rosie leaned closer. That her? He nodded. Emma. She liked daisies. She looks like. She laughed a lot. She did. What happened to her? He paused. Fire. Rosie went quiet. Then, you think I'll ever get my brother back? He looked at her and said the only honest thing he could. I don't know, but we'll die trying if we have to. She nodded like that was fair. Later that night, as coyotes howled in the distance, and Rosie drifted off against the saddlebag, he sat alone with his memories. But then a sound, the snap of a twig, a whisper in the brush. His hand went to his revolver. His eyes narrowed. Movement. Just beyond the FIRLIGHT. Then a voice. Didn't think we'd see you again, Marshal. Scar. Man stepped into view, flanked by two others. The cowboy stood slowly. I ain't no Marshal no more. Still got the smell of justice on you. Scarman grinned. He looked at Rosie, still asleep. The cowboy stepped forward, shielding her with his body. Where's the boy? He growled. Gone. Already sold. You're lying. Scarman flicked his toothpick. Maybe. Maybe not. Point is, girl's worth something too. The cowboy drew. Gunfire exploded in the night. Rosie woke to chaos shots ringing out, fire sparking wild. She screamed as a bullet zipped past her head. The cowboy was already moving fast, low, deadly. Two of the outlaws dropped in the sand. Scarman dove behind a boulder, laughing. You really think you can save 'em all? He yelled. You couldn't even save your own. That tore something loose. The cowboy charged. Bullets lit the dark. He rolled, shot, moved like death itself. Scarman ran, but the cowboy was faster. He tackled him near the edge of a ravine. Fists. Flew. Blood sprayed. You left her to bleed in the stables? The cowboy growled, slamming Scarman's head into the ground. You sell kids like cattle. You're done. Scarman reached for his knife. Too late. The cowboy's revolver fired once. Scarman fell. Back at the camp, Rosie watched with wide eyes as the cowboy returned, bloodied but alive. She ran to him, hugged his leg. Was he lying? She whispered. Is my brother really gone? He knelt down. We don't know yet, but I got something off him. He held up a map crudely drawn with a red X. Could be a lead. Her eyes lit up with fire and fear and something else, hope. She clutched her cloth flower again. I ain't quitting, she said. He smiled, bitter and proud. Didn't think you would. They packed their things, stamped out the fire. Then, together, they rode into the night. The land stretched before them like the back of some dead god, cracked, twisted, ancient. Dead Mule Crossing was 3 days away through bad country, the kind where outlaws vanished and legends died quietly. The cowboy had seen it before. He wasn't afraid of the journey, but Rosie was quiet. Too quiet. She sat behind him on the saddle, arms wrapped tight around his ribs. She didn't hum or ask questions. She didn't even cry. He didn't push her. Some silences were necessary. By nightfall, they reached the Rejaw Canyons, a place where the winds howled through stone teeth and shadows moved like ghosts. They found shelter beneath an overhang, far from the trail. The cowboy unpacked the bedrolls and sparked a fire. Rosie stared into the flames. "You ever been here before?" she asked. He nodded. "Long time ago. Wasn't looking for anyone then. Just a place to disappear." Rosie tucked her knees to her chest. "You ever think about quitting?" He looked over. "Every day." She blinked slowly. "Me too." Then, after a pause, "But then I remember how my brother used to whistle when he got scared, like he was whistling the fear away." She glanced up. "Ain't heard no whistling in a while." The cowboy didn't respond. Instead, he dug into his saddlebag and handed her a piece of jerky and a water pouch. "You keep going," he said. "That's what matters." Next morning, the desert tested them. The heat blistered their backs. Rosie's lips cracked. The horse began to stagger. Sand filled their boots. They passed the skeleton of a wagon. Half buried, its wheel snapped. A broken doll lay beside it. Someone was trying to escape. Rosie whispered. The cowboy said nothing. Later, they found a cross, hand-carved, shallow grave. Rosie asked, "You think they buried a person there?" "Yeah." "What was there?" "Name?" He paused. "Don't know." Rosie stared down. Then she knelt beside the grave and murmured something too soft to catch. "What did you say?" "I gave 'em a name, so they ain't forgotten." That night, they stumbled upon an old shack, half-burned, crows nesting in the rafters, but it had a roof. And inside a woman, wrinkled like dried hide, wearing more feathers than cloth. She sat in the dark, feeding beans into a cracked pot over a flickering fire. Her eyes glinted under the shadow of her bonnet. "Been waitin'," she said. Cowboy's hand went to his gun. She chuckled. "No need for steel. I don't deal in flesh no more." Rosie stared. "Who are you?" The woman stirred the beans. "Name's Nettle. Folks used to call me a witch. Then they just called me alone." The cowboy asked, "You know where the trade's headed?" She nodded. "Past Dead Mule, toward the Salt Flats. There's a camp in the canyon. They sell the loud ones fast, the quiet ones. They train? Nettle nodded. "Break their names. Make 'em forget." Rosie flinched. The cowboy put a hand on her shoulder. "You know someone who was taken?" Nettle asked softly. Rosie whispered, "My brother." Nettle leaned closer. "Then you better move fast. Word is the next wagon's leavin' tomorrow night." After supper, as Rosie curled up with the saddle blanket, the cowboy stood outside, staring at the stars. Nettle stepped beside him. "She's strong," she said, "but she ain't whole." He nodded. "She reminds me of someone," Nettle added. "Your daughter?" The cowboy's face tightened. "She burned. I was supposed to be there." "I wasn't." Nettle watched him carefully. "You can't bring her back. But maybe you can stop someone else from being taken." He didn't say anything. Just clenched his fists. Then went back inside. The next day, they rode hard. By dusk, the canyon mouth opened before them like a beast's jaw. They tied the horse and crept along the rocks. Below the outlaw camp. Tents, fires, a rusted wagon cage. Inside it, children. Rosie gasped. "There!" She pointed. "That's him, Jamie." The boy huddled in the corner, too thin, hair matted. He looked up but didn't react. His eyes were empty. "They already started on him," the cowboy whispered. "No," Rosie said. "He remembers. I know he does. We need a plan." Rosie pulled out her cloth flower. "Can I go?" she asked. The cowboy stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "No, I can get close. They won't see me. I'm small. I can whisper to him. Maybe he'll remember." "It's too dangerous." "You said I'm strong." He hesitated. Then nodded. 5 minutes. Then I cause a distraction. Rosie grinned. Don't die, he smirked. You either. She crept through the rocks like a fox. Silent, nimble. Dust in her wake. At the edge of the cage, she whispered, Jamie, it's me. The boy stirred. She showed him the cloth flower. Remember this? He blinked, slowly. Then he whistled. Just one note. Soft, but it cracked the night. Rosie's heart burst. He remembered. Then gunshot. A scream. A shout. The cowboy was charging in from the other side. Guns blazing, hat flying. Camp erupted. Rosie screamed, Run, Jamie, run! The boy followed her as the cowboy opened fire, taking out 2 men, then 3, but a 4th came from behind. Rosie turned, saw the gun. She threw herself at Jamie, covering him. Bang. Then silence. Dust cleared. The cowboy limped into view, bleeding from the side, smoke rising from his revolver. Rosie looked up, tears on her face, her arms around Jamie. You came, she said. I said I would, he replied. Earned the camp that night, freed every child. Rosie sat with Jamie beside the fire. He hadn't said much, but he held her hand. The cowboy sat apart, staring at the flames. Rosie stood, walked to him. Will you keep riding with us? He looked. Up? Where would we go? She smiled. Anywhere but here. He gave a small, tired laugh. All right. The prairie was still. Dawn painted the sky in strokes of lavender and rust. A breeze carried the last traces of smoke from the outlaw camp, now nothing more than ash and charred wagons. The cowboy packed his saddlebag slow and stiff. His side was wrapped tight from the bullet graze. He winced, but he didn't let Rosie see. She was too busy wrapping Jamie in her coat, gently combing dust from his hair with her fingers. The boy hadn't spoken since the camp burned, but he clung to his sister like a shadow. And Rosie, well, she didn't cry anymore. She just looked. Older. The kind of older the world forces on children too soon. They rode toward Silver Bend, the nearest town with a doctor, and a telegraph. The trail was quiet. Rosie finally broke the silence. What'll happen to the others? The kids we freed? The cowboy glanced back. The marshals got in now. Town folks'll take some in. Some will head east. You think they'll be okay? No, he said honestly, but they've got a chance. Jamie tugged at Rosie's sleeve. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. It was the silver coin, the same one Rosie had begged for, the same one she had given up to the outlaws. You kept it? She asked. He shook his head, pointing at the cowboy. Rosie looked at the cowboy, confused. He shrugged. Took it off that scar-faced bastard before I buried him. Figured it didn't belong in the dirt. She stared at the coin, turning it over in her hand. The surface was scratched, dulled, but it gleamed still. Funny, she whispered. It didn't save him, but it saved us. The cowboy nodded. Some things only have value when they leave your hand. That night, they stayed in a barn outside Silver Bend. Clean hay. Warm air. Safer than anywhere they'd been. Jamie was asleep on a bedroll. Rosie and the cowboy sat by a lantern, the silver coin between them. Where are you going to go now? She asked. He rubbed his jaw. Don't know. You could come with us. I'm a broken trail, Rosie. Ain't much left to follow. You ain't broken, she said. You just got places that ain't healed yet. He looked at her. Sounds like you've been readin' poetry. She grinned. Mama used to read it. He was quiet a while. Then he said, I used to think the worst sound in the world was silence. What is it now? Children cryin', or worse, not cryin'. Rosie nodded slowly. Then, Jamie's gonna talk again. He just needs time. I believe you. She leaned her head on his shoulder. He didn't move, didn't flinch, just sat there, breathing in the moment. The next morning, the townsfolk stared when they entered Silver Bend. A battered cowboy with a stitched-up side. A filthy girl with a rifle on her back. A boy too silent for his age. They went to the doctor. Got food. New clothes. As they left the dry goods store, a man called out, "Marshal?" The cowboy turned. An old lawman in a dusty badge stepped forward. "Heard rumors. Said you were dead." "Almost," the cowboy said. The man nodded toward Rosie. "That your kin?" "No, that's Rosie. She's mine now, though." Rosie stood tall beside him. The boy clutched her hand. "What about the boy?" "His name's Jamie. Don't let the quiet fool you. He's got fight." The marshal smiled. "You settling down?" The cowboy looked down at Rosie and Jamie. Then up at the wide-open road beyond the livery. "Maybe." Weeks passed. They bought a little wagon. Painted the side with shaky letters. Rosie's boots and gunshine. Repairs, shine, protection. And pie. Because Rosie insisted on baking. And she insisted on naming the horse Marshal. The cowboy didn't argue. He wore clean boots now. Still rough around the edges, still grizzled. But his eyes didn't carry as much weight. Jamie spoke again. First word was Rosie. Second word was bang. And then one night, after dinner, Jamie whistled a tune. Just one. Soft, off-key. But it made Rosie cry. On the porch of their wagon that evening, Rosie flipped the silver coin between her fingers. The cowboy sat beside her, sipping coffee. "Ever think about what one coin really buys?" she asked. He looked at her. "Depends who's spending it." She smiled. "I bought my brother. You bought a future." She handed him the coin. He took it, stared at it. Then flicked it out. "Into the prairie. Let someone else find it," he said. "Might save them too." They watched it disappear into the golden grass. In the Wild West, silver often bought bullets and power and death. But sometimes, just sometimes, it bought something better. A second chance. A family. A soul pulled back from the edge. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes all it takes is one coin, placed in the right hands.